Hello, everybody. Just joining the live here on my other computer and waiting for some folks to join us. Oh, it won't let me. Oh, here we go. Click to join. There we go. Awesome. Welcome, welcome. All right. So I'm so excited to have everybody join us today and talk about 2024 goal setting. I really am excited and passionate about this topic, and I think we can cover a lot of ground and actually make a big difference in your 2024 goal setting. So I'd love for anybody that's joined so far to drop in the comments where you're joining from. I'm looking over to the side because I have another computer set up so I can make sure I see all of our comments today. Okay. Well, looks like we might be slow going, but I want to jump right into the content that we have today. So, hot take. This is my take on goal setting, and that's goals undermine progress. And progress is really, all right, Davenport, Iowa. I'm joining from Denver, and our weather is finally creeping out of the Arctic temperatures. But I'm thinking, Hannah, you in Iowa still have another day of these below zero temps. So after this, I'm excited to actually get outside for the first time in 3 days. All right, California, you've got to already be warmed up. South Carolina, amazing. I'm so glad that you guys could all join today. And this is great that we have some participation because we're going to have some more opportunities to share and participate as we go through the live. All right, my big take is that goals undermine progress. Goals are the near enemy of progress. And near enemy is this concept in Buddhism. I read about it first in Brene Brown's content, and I'm going to give you a brief example. So, if I wanted to be a good leader, a far enemy, a very clear enemy of being a good leader is to scream obscenities at your team when they make a mistake. A near enemy of good leadership is follow up to the point of micromanagement because that erodes trust. But you're doing something that you think is helpful, but actually is unhelpful to your team and to being a good leader. So that's the kind of concept that I'm bringing that goals can sometimes do for progress. So a goal example is, let's say I wanted to double my revenue. So if I go out to double my revenue and I start spending more time on customer acquisition than customer service, I might dilute my offering and thus make it less compelling to sell. And I'm going to drive my revenue down. Or I might say, in order to double my revenue, I need a ton more leads than I have today. And so I'm going to increase my lead quantity and reduce my lead quality. And so that might lead to my sales team spending more time with unqualified leads. It might lead to lower close rates. It might lead to less revenue per deal. So that's where, when I set a goal, I might undermine the progress that I'm actually trying to make with that goal. Another one that might make a lot of sense is I set the goal to go to the gym every single day. Well, over exercise can lead to injury, and injury means we can't go to the gym. So now I feel like crap because I can't go to the gym. I feel like I'm letting myself down. And this goal that I set to feel better is actually making me feel considerably worse. So that's how sometimes goals can be the near enemy of progress. So if not goals, then what? Better goals or better goal setting. What goals, if you don't mind sharing, do you guys have for 2024? And these might be things that we can talk about as we dive into better goal setting. My goals, I have some revenue goals in my consulting business, Solving Work. I guess that way. And then I also have the goal this summer to hike the Tour du Mont Blanc, 110 miles through France, Italy, and another country, Switzerland, around Mont Blanc. And I'm really approaching these from this point of view as well. So I'll check the comments here. Anybody would love to share a goal they might have for 2024? I'm going to move on, but I'll keep looking at the comments there. So traditional goal setting, is everyone familiar with the acronym SMART? Have you been setting SMART goals? I sure have for years and years and years. It means specific, measurable, assignable, realistic, and time bound. And the results are kind of meh. For New Year's resolutions, let's just look at that, because look, the personal and the professional, you're only one person, and I think that these things really carry across that barrier. So 36% of people make it past January. The average length of a New Year's resolution is 4 months, and then only 9% are making it to the end. And I don't know if there are any surprises in that for you guys. But I'm going to talk a little bit about what I think gets in the way of the goal setting. And this is one of my favorite concepts, and I think it applies to logistics, but certainly outside of logistics, regardless of, where you are in industry. And that's the doom loop. This comes for us all. Disruptions come for us all. So we make this perfect plan in January. We have this January cortisol. We're feeling like really good. And then a disruption hits. If you're in logistics, what's going on in the Red Sea, Chinese New Year, the Panama Canal, it's an election year. Stuff's going down. If you have more questions on that, go watch last month's live where we talked about what affected us in 2023 and how those things might continue to be pervasive in 2024. And so what happens is we abandon these goals, or we change the goal, or we back in whatever happened to say we hit the goal. And I am guilty of all three. I don't know about you guys. All right, so I'm just going to check out some of the goals here. Cutting down unconstructive screen time. That's an amazing goal. Review monthly reporting. Make sure it's useful. Oh my God, I love that one, Gretchen. The eyes. Oh my God, Hannah, you are speaking my language on trying to have a better, more effective planning process. And these goals, all three of them, could undermine your progress in terms of the outcome that you want. So I think listening to what we're about to go into, and that's really what the SMART acronym gets right, and what's not so smart about it, in relation to these goals, is going to be helpful in order to make it happen this year. All right. So let's get back to it. All right, specific. This is what's smart about SMART goals. This is usually the outcome-based goal. I want to, so like if I'm thinking about Hannah and her goal of leveraging the Eisenhower matrix, that's more of a process-based goal, and I love that. I'm going to ask us to take it one step further, but the outcome is that you're delivering work more on time, or you're experiencing less stress during the process. Things like that are going to be the outcome-based goal. And that's usually where we start. Then we start, and like Jared's goal of cutting down unconstructive screen time, that's his outcome-based goal. When we get specific using the SMART framework, that's when we drill down and we talk about how we're going to get that outcome. Are we going to delete apps off our phone? Are we going to set screen time limits in our phone settings? Things like that, right? It's the how usually. So we start with that, usually the outcome-based goal, and then we're going to move it to a process-based goal. So like if I had the goal of reducing shipping expense, that's my that's my outcome, but I'm going to get specific about how I might do that, whether that's leveraging my TMS or selecting the least cost carrier or using the routing guide. And this process piece is really important for a lot of reasons, but one the key to goal achieving, not goal setting, but goal achieving is momentum and not motivation. Progress is hard. You're going to have to help yourself achieve these goals because that doom loop, those disruptions, they are coming. So I challenge you to take that outcome and then drill it down to a process-based goal, and then drill that down to a habit-based goal. And then you can focus on keeping your streak alive because your motivation will wane. It will get eaten up by the doom loop. Your willpower is going to be at risk if that's what you're counting on to hit your 2024 goals. All right. So in summary, take that outcome-based goal, turn it into a process-based goal, and then find the habits that underlie those processes that are going to help you get to where you're going, and then focus on the habit. All right, measure. So this is still relevant even when I'm telling you to maybe let go of the outcome-based goal and focus on the habit or process-based goal, because the process of doing this matters. What metrics move the needle is important. Knowing that detail is incredibly important. So if we go back to that reducing shipping expense goal, how does this metric work? So if I just ship less, my shipping expense will go down. But if I ship less, then I have potentially less revenue. And is that what I really want? Or if I use only ultra low cost carriers, I'm going to get my shipping expense down, but now I've got bad service, or now I have more damage and I'm spending more money on the back end. Or what if my shipping profile changes? What if marketing comes up with this great new product and its like dimensions are huge and now I'm getting oversized surcharges, even though I've reduced my contract rates, even though I've brought in carriers to give us options to use lower cost carriers, I'm going to look at that shipping expense number at the end of the year and feel like a failure, even though I did everything right because I didn't investigate the metric to the level that I needed to in order to properly set the goal. But then also understanding all of the different things that come into this goal is going to allow me to better understand the processes at play and better understand the habits that might lead to success. All right. Lastly, what SMART goals do really well is realistic. If you've done specific and measurable, then you have accomplished half the battle. The question is, if you're at that habit-based goal, can you do this every day? And I'm going to ask you this question. Is the you who buys groceries the same you that has to cook? Or are these two entirely different people? Is the you sitting here in January the same you that's going to do this day in and day out? And I just when I started thinking about setting realistic goals, I was like, this meme instantly entered my brain. So you already have a full-time job. That's pretty difficult. You already have a full plate. You are going to have to do these habits on a daily basis consistently before you start to get the benefit of what you're doing, right? Before the ROI comes into play, usually these goals take time to build up to give us that thing that we were looking for. So you need to make sure that you really and truly can do this when the January cortisol wears off. And also in the context of last year's disruptions. So look back, what happened last year? If I'm looking at this reduced shipping expense and I say, you know what, I can get better rates if I put all of my volume with a specific carrier. Sure. But what if they go out of business like Yellow did last year in a span of 30 days? What if they have a labor dispute like UPS did last year, or the West Coast ports, or the East Coast ports have in October? What if some of those things happen? Am I still going to be able to enact this goal on an everyday basis? So here's what I'm going to offer as you look at how realistic your goals are. And it's two things. One is the Pareto rule, 80-20. So where am I going to get 80% of the benefit with only 20% of the habit? and pick that habit and take away the rest. Focus on the biggest activity that is going to, or the smallest activity, honestly, that's going to give you the biggest return on investment. The other thing is pare it back and then layer it up. So take it. So you want to do 6 things. All right, start with one thing. Prove to yourself that you can do that consistently for 30 days, and then add in the second thing, and then add in the third thing. Give yourself a streak, build momentum, and then add to it. And look, I am all for the moonshot, to reach for the stars, to go big or to go home. But the fact of the matter is most of the time we all end up at home. That's those New Year's resolution. Those are those New Year's resolution stats that we covered at the beginning. And this quote, it's attributed to Eric Spoelstra from The Heat, Bill Gates, a Stanford scientist. Everyone overestimates what they can do in a day and underestimates what they can do over the course of months and years. So small, consistent efforts over time will beat out the moonshot for the most people. Maybe you're 1 in a million and I want you to go for it. But for some of your goals, paring it back to what is realistic, what is achievable, what you can do on the day-to-day can also support a foundation for which to launch later on. Go small, be consistent. It's not sexy, but man, it is effective. And this part, being realistic, is literally the hardest part of goal setting, if you want my opinion. And you're here, so maybe you do. All right. What's not smart about the SMART goal acronym? The first one that I'm going to say is assignable. Goals need ownership. So when we get into the doom loop, when stuff starts coming down the pipe, if your team has received these goals top down, the very first thing they're going to jettison is what they don't think is important. And if you have not transferred true belief and true ownership in these goals, they will jettison your goal. It's gone, and it's gone under the guise of all hands on deck. Well, you know, we couldn't focus on that because we had to keep the business moving forward. And there's truth to that. But if someone really owns the goal and someone really, really believes in it, you're going to see them find a way to maintain and still go all hands on deck and deal with whatever disruption has come. So if you want their goals to be your goals, that's change management. Goals mean progress. Progress means change. Change always 100% of the time means change management. And this is a pain in the ass. Goals are hard when they are done right. But this is just so unbelievably important. All right, the last thing that SMART isn't so smart about is making our goals time-bound. So first off, I believe strongly, as I talk to you guys about habits mattering, that reps are what matters, not this artificial timeline of 1 year. Unless your goal actually has something to do with the earth revolving around the sun, and if you're not in aerospace, I'm not sure how that could be possible, then let's focus less on the time-bound nature and more about getting our reps in. And here's another area where goals start to undermine progress, because this deadline, which is potentially artificial, adds stress. And it's going to potentially cause hopelessness depending on how close you are to the outcome you wanted to achieve and how close you are to the deadline. So, and some people get real motivated by that. They're like deadline-driven people, and for them, it might make sense. Other people are not deadline-driven. And so this starts to create and inject more stress, reduce creativity. It starts to incentivize the wrong behavior. So reducing year-over-year expenses, do I want to do something that matters, or do I want to show less expense? Because I can do funny math. I can make the spreadsheet say just about anything. And this is that piece where we look at whatever actually happened and we back that into saying we accomplished our goals. And this is another problem when we layer bonus and compensation tied into the goals without having done the proper goal setting at the beginning. We could totally be incentivizing the wrong behavior. The how is just so much more important than the when. All right, wrapping up. Goals undermine progress. Motivation is going to wane. Willpower is going to be overtaken by the doom loop. So habits as goals leverage the momentum, which is just so much more powerful. It allows us to achieve with such greater consistency, and consistency is the foundation on which you can do almost anything. My best practices when it comes to habits: pick a habit with a high impact that you can do as frequently as possible. The more reps, the more it will get ingrained into you, the more it'll become automatic, the less you'll have to think about it, the less you'll need to leverage willpower. This will build and build and build and build. Second, best practice, pick a consequence. So I got a few goals. One additional goal that I have is to spend less money on Amazon and basically spend with the billionaire population a little bit less, or at least a little bit more thoughtfully, because come on, Amazon is definitely convenient and I'm in for that. So my consequences, if I want to purchase on Amazon or purchase with any other billionaire, I am going to do a 3-mile loop around my home with a weighted vest. This is a goal that will feel good. Like, that's a consequence that can feel good. It's not super punitive, but it does add just enough friction to get me to do what I need to do, right? So right now, especially the last 3 days where it's been like 0 degrees outside, I have bought nothing. So props to me. And I'm 16 days Amazon sober. So that's another amazing goal. And I could probably go back into my Amazon history and I'll be hard pressed to find such a window. So, pick a consequence, something that you can do, something that's not too punitive that you're just not going to do it. Right. And use that to add friction when you don't want to do the thing that you do really want to do. And then last one is pick or recruit an accountability partner. So whether that's your manager at work and you're like, hey, in our one-on-ones, I need you to ask me these questions. I need you to hold me accountable to the habits that are going to build to the outcomes that we want to see this year. Or it's a work friend or a friend. And if you're not comfortable with any of those people, then it's me. DM me your goals, your questions, what you need, and I'm going to be your accountability partner for this year. Because I want you to see how this changes how we approach goals. The only deal with that is that you have to ask me about my Amazon streak. Then that way I've got an extra accountability partner as well. All right. I'm going to get to questions and insights in a second. But before we do that, I just want to talk a little bit about what's coming up next month. I'm going to be going to Manifest, which is the Future of Logistics conference in Las Vegas, the first week in February. So if you're going to be there, I would love to meet you. Additionally, my February live is going to be those biggest takeaways from the conference. So if you aren't able to get there, please join us here next month, because we're going to talk about what you missed and what's coming up. If you need help with what we discussed, or you have interest in the other services I provide, whether that's the personal process bootcamp, which could definitely help with the Eisenhower matrix process, or the total team transformation, you're looking at changing how you approach technology, processes, and team leadership within your area of responsibility, or you're needing some fractional resource support in operations or logistics, please use my link or send me a DM to book a discovery call. I'd love to talk about that. Otherwise, you'll find me on LinkedIn, but love to see in the comments if anybody has any questions or insights based on what we talked about today. And we'll stay on for a few minutes and see if there's any discussion. And if you shared your goal, is there anything that we talked about today that maybe has you thinking about it in a different way? That would be also awesome to talk about. And Hannah, there's no way I'm going completely Amazon sober for the year, but I'll get my exercise. And that also builds for me because if I'm hiking the Tour du Mont Blanc this summer, getting an extra 3-mile hike whenever I feel like buying on Amazon is absolutely going to help me achieve that goal. So it adds friction, but it also helps me achieve my other goals, which is sort of amazing. All right, we're still here, so I'll give the comments a second to come in. Oh, that's a great insight. More about repetition and less about being time bound, That's because I was talking about this with my husband, just reviewing what I wanted to talk about. And he's like, but then what? For the 9% that make it all 12 months, what happens the following January 1st? And this is where we really talked about when we were making it time bound is like, well, we can funny math this all we want. If I reduce my year over year expense this year, but then next year choose a different kind of goal, I can hide those sins forever. What happens after that? That's why it's about that repetition. That's why it's about ensuring that it becomes ingrained in your personal culture or your team culture, your department culture. Making these changes that have high repetition builds them into culture, builds them into the foundation of your organization, which means that on January 1st, 2025, which I can't believe that's the next January 1st that we're going to see, we are not going to start back to zero. We're going to have the ability to, build. And that means that when the doom loop comes, when the disruptions come, because they are coming, they come for us all, that this will be ingrained. This will be habit. This will not be yet another KPI that we jettison when things get tough, when it's end of quarter. Like this, the reps are what build it into everything that we do. All right, awesome. I really appreciate everybody joining. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for your time. I hope that this was valuable. If you took anything away that you didn't want to share publicly, I would love to hear about it in my LinkedIn inbox. So please direct message any other insights you might have. And just, I wish you so much progress and so much achievement, whatever that might be in 2024. Thank you, guys.